All right, Blenheim. We're here at 3 p.m. Story so far, not a lot has changed in the last hour. The cav advances that happened here, yeah, we pushed a little bit further. Got some breakthrough coming through, but that's about it. Over here, things are sort of stabilizing. This new line that I made up is forming up. Is that the problem? I don't think so. But clearly it would be easier for the Allies to just be able to march past these guys, past a force that's stationed back here and ignore it, knowing that it can't intervene. But that also seems highly unrealistic. And what it may be, and I also still don't think that it would give enough force to push my way across across the river line, the stream line here. And then on the strong points, those are basically remaining impenetrable. This one's in a peculiar location where it really can't be impacted much. These, yeah, there's some possibility of a breakthrough on either one of those. I don't see this wing falling. This one might. It's pretty small and ugliness could happen. But my main hope right now is the cav versus cav fight here, finishing things off. It's got about a half-hour till raid, and I'm going to take a nap, I think. Just close my eyes, listen to a video for a while until I'm ready to play that. So, entering into a clan fight in the game, in raid, so I probably won't be playing quite as much as I have been the last couple days. Unfortunately, I also probably won't be doing things that I should be doing. It's turned out to be not that bad a day late in the day. It wasn't supposed to, it was supposed to be pretty wet. Tomorrow is supposed to be rainy in the morning and dry in the afternoon, or sunny in the afternoon. Maybe I can fucking convince myself to get out of the house. Before we get to anything else happening in Blenheim, I just wanted to point out, I was worried about what was labeled Clash of Sovereigns, on my shipping information. This is a fix kit, including a new rule book, some player aid cards, some actual cards. I didn't look through the entire thing, but it shows that, okay, the fact that GMT is willing to charge, a couple of bucks for printing replacement counters for their small fuck-ups, when they do really make an error, at least on a higher ticket game, I don't know if this one will qualify, feels like it's a big enough fuck up when all sections of rules are missing and counters are misprinted and all kind of stuff like that. But the simple counter misprintings, if that was all it was, I would expect that to be in the, hey, pay your couple bucks if you want the replacement pieces. But in this case, they're still at the, we screwed up, man, and we are replacing the components that are a mess. So that's a pretty good sign. Seeing this may have just swung me back to, I can P500 their stuff still. I'm a little grumpy about the cheap counter, about the buying a replacement counter sheet each year or whatever. But in general, those are things you can fix, right? And I'd rather they sell it as a separate thing than just put it into, as they, if you went further back, what they used to do, which I really hated, which was they used to shove them into C3I magazine. Like, oh, you're missing these. And C3I, I can pay a couple bucks and get replacement counters for whatever games I ordered that year. And and some vanity counters and stuff like that maybe as well. Whatever I order in a year might not be enough to be worth, doing that for. Like the last set, I've got, I don't know, 2 or 3 games that are on there, but I'm trying to slow down in my purchases. But it is good to know that this is not going to be a, hey, pay $15 for a replacement kit, to make the game whole again, or rely on the online resources to do it, and which is what most companies are doing. So this is a good sign. It restores some of my faith. Never know what to do is what the hell to do with the old rule book. Now, to some extent, you could say, throw it out. But maybe there was an interesting but unworkable rule in it, similar to some of the stuff in here that I think it might not be a usable thing, and it may be that they just decided to rewrite the rule book for whatever reason. So I like to keep them to have a hint of what there is, and we'll just mark it up so that I don't get the two mixed up. But in the event that there's anything of interest in here, I do want to keep it. And I'm not, it's not a game that I'm reading the rules for right now or whatever, and I'm not familiar with what the changes are like. So I want to make sure I keep this, because as one example, if we go back to the CWB series, and I have a number of units there, pieces there were rules that got withdrawn from the series. I think they were mainly optional rules, but there were things in the game that got withdrawn from the series that I liked better than what their replacement was. Their replacement was more competitive play friendly, perhaps, or in some cases, they just found that the rule that they put in initially was just an unworkable thing. But there were parts I like about it, and it might be true with OCS as well when I think about some of the way they handled airplanes in the older stuff and moved it to the newer. But and to the extent that I actually wrote to the gamers and asked them, hey, do you have like an electronic version of the original rules? Because I want to see this rule. I see hints of it in some of my in some of the designer's notes and stuff, and how it was withdrawn. And it sounds really intriguing to me. I want to have an idea of what you actually did with it. It turned out it wasn't as interesting as I had hoped when actually applied, but the idea of it is still very intriguing, and it has to do with like sort of leaders' psychological profiles when they go, how they're going to react to certain things in battle, and it affects them directly. Where they started handling that in some of the gamers' later stuff was to put in random events tables that would handle that kind of thing. I don't like that anywhere near as much. Anyway. I'll put this back in the box and, again, get back to actually playing Blenheim. But again, those of you who are this far into my coverage of any given battle, you're used to me. It was incredibly effective this time. Hits on all 3 that fired. Other ones are moving, of course. And that gets me to the, hey, let's play with the command table. A lot of successes, actually. Let's start with the Allied side first. Marching another infantry brigade to come up against this Lutzingen, and committing a Cav brigade to slip in and take the place of this infantry so that it can go down and do something of value. And that's it for the Allies. But for the French, I'm committing that Montmorency forward. That's the unit that came from over, I think over here. So They're marching a long ways. And also sending this Ingelheim or whatever over into the reserve here. I feel like this is my weak spot. And like I said, I've got troops here that I can start funneling in, and one of them's going in already. I didn't send another one in because that first line that line of infantry actually looks pretty potent. I'm just worried that the cav is going to fuck it up, is pretty much where I'm sitting there. And I guess that's it. And that's going to get me to brigade activations. Let's do a quick count. I'm sure the Allies have more in charge because these are all dress ranks. Yeah, there's only one French unit in charge, but there's a fair number of Allied units in charge. So, looking for what to fire off first, and I found a couple of places today now. You know, places like here where like, what am I going to gain from it? And them being in dress ranks, they're going to go after me no matter what. They're going to get to recover from whatever I hit them with. It's just, nothing good's going to come of attacking them. I kind of don't want to be fighting over. Like, when infantry hits infantry, unless you can get like an overlap of brigades or where two counters are where you're able to get two attacks at once or whatever, it's going to be really hard to dislodge something that's just sitting in dress ranks. And that's I think the cav fight then becomes the definitive fight for the battle. But I found something I thought was going to work, and I moved my pieces and then realized, wait, no, it's not. I wanted to move de Hurleyville here because he could hit this Merda Wilf unit that's already disordered and is blocked from retreating, but I'm infantry. And I knew this. Infantry hitting cavalry requires that if it's not an initial volley, pretty sure, has to be charge open terrain, not across the hex side, have only cav. Wait, I thought you, oh no, I'm thinking cav hitting infantry. Okay, so I can go through this. Yeah, I'm thinking cav hitting infantry, you have to have that open flank to be able to do anything. But infantry hitting cav is just the scare away tactic. So yeah, see how easy it is for me to get confused. Now, again, I was asleep 30 minutes, 45 minutes ago, but, so indeed, I'm gonna launch my attacks like this because there's actually two units that can't retreat. These guys can't retreat into here because there's infantry behind them, even if they weren't blocked off. So I'm going to be able to cause cannot retreat issues to two stacks of units. We managed to rout that vulnerable cav unit. Now the question here then becomes, can anything be done about this before this unit takes up its line here? And I think the answer is probably not, because any charges that are going to happen, nothing's going to get into this gap, and these guys are in march formation or under march orders, so they could just slide right up into the river and then come into dress ranks later, right? If I turn into dress ranks now, I'd be leaving a gap across the stream and whatever. But at the very least, we're looking at infantry versus infantry fighting, which means I might possibly break them. And the one French unit under charge was Vigier's Cav Brigade, and they're turning out to be the stars of the show. They launched 2 attacks, and the other unit that was way up ahead, thrown into move, swung around, came back, and turned around into this hex. One of the attacks got thrown back into that hex, but the other one killed a unit on a good die roll, and on a very bad die roll for the Allies, routed the whole Carafa unit. And you can see that's all running back here. So we've just blown a hole in the line. One that there's no answer to in place with the current orders. In fact, there couldn't have been well, yeah, actually I could have done a transfer, and I probably tried to. I believe I did. To try to slip another command up front, but failed. But that's a massive swing there. Like that brigade has done quite a bit in the 2 turns that it's been engaged. Interesting things that happened. Blecky or Bielke or whatever was unable to get out of his charge into dress ranks. Hits, stuck in a firefight there. And then over here, Rowe did get out into dress ranks, fell back, and is trying to recover. But again, it's going to be really hard to dislodge these guys. I'm going to have to get like, I don't know what, because there's no die roll for recovery. Recovery just happens. So I'm going to have to get fantastic hits, you know, kind of like he did, to dislodge that unit at all from the village. Which, again, that's fine. In fact, it might even be impossible. I can get retreats on them. I'm not going to be able to get good odds on them. So sort of the best I can do is kind of push them back. And even that's going to require really, really good strikes. I might want to swap Ferguson in with fresh troops. If I can do that, that's a hard maneuver to do. And see if first fires can get me, because the first fire can conceivably give 2 hits on a unit and therefore destroy some of these things. If I succeed in that, there's a second line of infantry back here that can fill the gap there. So fighting at the strong point may not be the best move. It may be better just to let Rowe kind of pin them down. And it may just be that I decide, hey, I can't win this wing, but I could swing units over from it if this starts being insufficient to deal with this wing. I still think the battle's going to be won here, but hey, the French just like turned this around heavily with that one attack. I have a possible solution to breaching this streamline, which is the Holstein-Beck brigade. It's currently in charge. That's going to force me. I don't know what it does to me, to tell you the truth, because I think I'm just in movement anyway. But some of the units of it are going to have to attack Cav. Whereas if I get into move, here's what I can do. This guy cannot charge here because there's a river line between. But the gap I can move in through. So I do have a unit that I can exploit this. I can't overlap the Earleville or whatever, but I can get into this hex and even this hex. And that looks like the kind of exploit that I want to attempt. It's not going to look like linear warfare, I'm afraid. This is the net effect, this penetrating column coming through here with these other units. These guys attacked and scared a cav off, no big deal there. These guys can't attack this cav or move it, but if we can engage here, we can start causing issues. This infantry is probably going to light up our day, though, because we're still in charge. I was unable to get out of charge, which means he can do some nastiness to us. And, well, we'll see. In terms of the game system, this is a terrible formation to be in. Like, you wouldn't want to be in this, okay? You're going to be suffering some horrible hits on you, but it seems the only way to breach the streamline in this area where there's cav, and it's going to be really hard to breach the streamline against the infantry once it starts throwing itself into dress ranks. You know, I'm going to be in the same kind of problem that I am along this line and whatnot. You know, defensive terrain and dress ranks, it's just too much to count on lucky shots being able to get me any distance. Of course, I can, at the very least, unlike with cav, I can advance when I move infantry away. I just realized it's worse than I thought up here, because remember, there's a rule, and I didn't remember, there's a rule where you can ignore a hit, or ignore a retreat result and take a hit instead if you're in a village. Final of the charging units was Palant. I got into dress rank, so I pulled out of a firefight here, moved into place up here. I don't know you know, particularly how valuable this is to me. But, you know, it was kind of half a dozen on one hand and six on the other, essentially, because I could get an attack, force this back, but then it could bounce back. This thing I would have to have charged, and I'm kind of at a disadvantage. Well, no, not really. And maybe I could have dislodged the firefight or something. But on the other hand, and I also thought about keeping the firefight and just recovering from the damage in this hex. But I decided I would do the shifting around because I want to see what develops here. We might actually see the French giving some way there. There's some problems going on, like with this Ballancourt unit. All of them, they're part of the support line of this command. And that's what I'm kind of fighting. So I may be extending my wing into this area on the other side of the village. Now this only makes sense to me, right? And this is why I feel like the wings have to shift, because who gains control of this little corridor next to the village? It could be the guys attacking the village, but it seems even more likely that it's the guys adjacent to it. And that's kind of where I feel like, you know, being able to move those lines, those dashed lines, at least a little bit is almost necessary in this game system. Yeah. I've got to make a decision whether or not I'm going to be playing more. I'm going to do a little bit of the March activations, but I don't think I'm going to make it through it because I've got my clan fight to do. Might come up for a break or something. You know, it's not a big. 2 weeks ago, I had one that was really a huge deal, and I was really trying to compete in it. This one, I'm not trying to compete as heavily. It doesn't have the same rewards in it, but you know, there are advantages to winning it still. Not much. Oh boy, oh boy, oh boy! Another major shift coming in here. The Fugger Brigade had a charge lined up. They struck. One of them bounced far off, giving an option for the defender to advance. They chose not to do it. The other one plowed forward, forced to advance. But the one unit it had broke the rather large Wolfensdorf brigade, which had like an 8 morale, takes 1 hit on it, meant that a 7 or less succeeds. So there was only a 20% chance that that unit would rout. And it did, and that's creating a gaping hole. There's a lot of luck in this game, right? Like, you know, and having something like that had a crappy Dragoon unit in the front, and that was enough to get me on the +1 table, which was enough on a good, you know, a fair span of dice can get me eliminated on the +1 table. That's a 30% chance, and you know, every now and then something just blows. So I mean, this is the front that's blowing open. It's also, or the wing that's blowing open. It's also the one that I keep predicting is the one that's going to determine it, and this is why. You know, what blew this open, same thing coming through here. Although this was more of a lucky shot because it was a big unit. I mean, this isn't a small unit, but whatever. Yeah, both were fairly improbable hits. Yeah, it's about time for me to go play Raid. I called it almost exactly. I'm like 5 minutes over the start, which, I mean, it certainly doesn't hurt me. I could have played out the rest of the turn and it wouldn't hurt me much. But this way, maybe I get some sleep in at some point. Like, I don't know. I mean, I'm gonna get sleep in. I really would like to be awake during the daytime sometimes. But I mean actually awake. It's funny because, you know, if I hit like, you know, dawn comes 6 a.m., whatever it happens at, right? And I might be awake between then and noon. And first of all, it's kind of cold and it's going to be rainy today and everything. The mornings are always different here, right? The heat is always very late in the day. During the summer, for example, it's like I'm confused because the high temperature happens around 4 or 5 p.m. instead of where I'm used to. It was almost always, like everywhere I've lived other than here, it comes at around 2 or 3, you know, and the sun's at its top, it's doing the most heat, and then it's had enough time at that top space. But I don't know what happens here. Even on perfectly clear days and everything, it's relatively comfortable on hot days until, around 4. Which is weird, just very weird to me. But anyway, when I'm up in the morning or whatever, not only is it chilly and everything, but I'm also fatigued feeling. And I don't want to go out and do things. Now this is odd because, well, not really. I'm thinking that we're talking about what normal people would see, say, after 9 p.m. or so. Like, not a time when it really is easy to just go outside and do things or whatever. Your brain is slower and everything, and you're like in this, oh, it's time to snooze soon. But anyway, couldn't sleep. Watched some vids mainly, and tried to lay down and fall asleep. And ended up eating something. Now I get a little bit more energy. It's like 9:30 or so. But let's get a little bit of this in, because it seems to be the only thing I can do that's like, I don't know, at all productive. I mean, I somehow I consider playing the games somewhat productive. I consider reading somewhat productive in its own certain way. And we'll see. I was very tired before. Eating made me a little less tired. If I put some consideration to units at the front, I see no advantage to doing any of them, because they give information, they give information to both players as to the success of an operation. For example, if I attack with this unit here and charge into there, which I probably am going to do, well, and, timing-wise, in terms of the units involved, these guys are in dress ranks. Nothing special is going to happen to them. But, this is going to go before them no matter what. I'm not going to get any kind of timing advantage or disadvantage over those direct units. But what I will get is the ability, the French may have to commit to not moving these units in order to delay, or they may have to, or likewise though, I committed to not moving the units in the back. Now those units in the back, no matter what happens, nothing's going to change as to what I do with them. So they were an obvious choice. Likewise, this unit over here, I could choose to pass with that. That's not going to impact anything. So my default is pass with things. And unfortunately, that drags out the turns a little bit. Is an interesting opportunity here, and I don't know if I'm taking it yet. The Baraton unit back here is aligned next to the Fuggers. Yeah, the Fuggers are in dress ranks, not charge. Okay, never mind. How'd that happen? How did that fucking happen? Like, how are they up there? They're not the unit that broke this, but I'm just wondering how this ended up aligned the way it is. Like, that just doesn't look correct. It looks to me like the Fuggers must have charged in order to get where they are in the position that they're in. But they're all spaced all over the fucking place. Yeah, I don't know what's up with them. But yeah, had they been in charge, which is what they appear to be in, then I could counterattack with this. I could attack with this in movement without having to commit it to a charge order. I don't know. I can still commit it to a charge order and try to smack things, but that might cause issues of some sort or another. I'm not sure what. Not quite. It's a hard to get a grasp of what is going to happen if I do this kind of thing. For one thing, you don't know what the results in the combat table are. They may require an advance, and that ends up with you no longer aligned properly in issues. And I am actually tired. I am not thinking as well as I need to be. That I'm having trouble finding units. So like this thing here, Trecasson. Turns out he's down here, which actually may open up some options. But no, again, facing dress ranks here. Why? Is that right? Again, how is that? How is that? No. That's charge. These guys are in charge. So, yeah, that's actually a possible. But I flipped over something over here instead because, again, it's easier to do passes. But the problem is eventually I get to the point where I forget the thing that I looked at and I'm like, whoa, how do I handle this? And don't come up with a great answer for it. Trecasson unit, after another pass, I did make the decision to attack. That's a brigade gun there. But one of the units ended up getting a 1 AR result. I don't know, was it this one? Yeah, it was this one. And routing. And the entire command ended up routing because of that small unit. A third of it runs, the rest of it goes. There might be some smaller high quality units. There don't seem to be many here. And yeah. So the threat to this Holstein back is diminishing very, very rapidly. Some anomalous situations developed here. Okay. Having something to do with this, Nagel tried to get into a charge to bust up the formation of a line here. That would extend things from this wing even further in, for whatever that means. And again, you couldn't even, you could do the charge, but then you'd have to withdraw, right? So you couldn't develop what was like a static line. You'd have to create your line along here to defend against things. You would be forced by the concept of wing into how you form your defense against the enemy. Okay. But Bligny here did a charge. Now this charge puts him out of compliance at this point. He marched in here, ended up in a firefight after getting his first fire there. He's out of compliance because if we look here, Ansley, sorry, is back here at the same distance from the front. I've moved units from the support through a charge into the front here. Maybe I can transfer them. I hope so. I hope I can do something because as things stand, this isn't good. But if I get out of this firefight, I have to pull back from there by whatever calculations I have. He should not be up at the front, but you've got to give leeway to what these wings mean to some extent. Otherwise, again, these guys would just run away and open up a gap that is antithetical to the idea of linear warfare, Now, I keep considering Broglie here. This is a cav unit. It can't attack across the river. Presumably, I can move into here and attack, I believe. This is the cav versus infantry. How is it worded? Attacking infantry and the attack must be from the flank or rear with at least one open flank. What's the thing? Oh, it's infantry that can't attack across the river, not cavalry. Yeah, so I could actually launch attacks there. Those would be defended, but those would have a defensive bonus, but that would have a chance of breaking up this Holstein back advance. But it's cav versus infantry. I can hit this to take away his first fire. I cannot hit this because he doesn't have an exposed flank. So yeah, I can't do anything with those, basically. I mean, yeah, I could hit to take the first fire and run away. That does not seem particularly advantageous to me. Although actually, if I'm hit by these guys, they can hit me with their first fire and then attack and conceivably do a couple of points of damage all at once. Another case of attacking from the support line, running into a charge operation. And this is perfectly fine. Well, kinda. I've ended up expanding into Vigier's area, but that, you know, that's a close thing. Well, and this is a different front, so that's okay. The shapes are weird, but anyhow, I ended up hitting this guy. I can't read him without tilting. Natsmer. I ended up hitting him and actually destroying 2 of his units through some lucky die rolls and whatnot. 2. See, they were both in this hex, so they both were routed there. Yeah. Basically, these 2 units hit the same hex. This one got actually 2 attacks on the hex, and this one got the 3rd attack. So I was able to route two of their units through a lucky series of die rolls, and unfortunately though for me, I didn't route the entire brigade, which would have really helped me to clear them out completely, and I had a fairly good chance. A 6 goes down to a 4, so we're looking at 50-50, right? And my battery's almost dead. Well, for me, almost dead isn't that bad, but sometimes it is. God damn it, this unit is an infantry unit. This whole thing is fucked up. I have to try to figure out how to reconstruct what I had. Son of a bitch. You know, my inability to discern them. It's just so extreme. I treated this as cav versus cav combat. It's not what it was. Infantry moving up would have done a very different thing. I don't even fucking know if I'd want to charge with infantry, but I can't see the difference easily enough to not make the mistakes. That's fucking ridiculous. Did a counter charge, and I hit the first unit, destroyed it, and then got an advance with another attack, hit that, and I'm like, well, wait a minute, that's an infantry line. These counters are just too fucking hard to discern. I think this is what I had set up. Let's get rid of this because that's not on the board yet. So these would move forward. I think this is how I did it. A first fire on this thing. Let's see what that would do. Infantry versus cavalry. The cavalry units is disordered. If it's already disordered, it's routed and retreats. That causes the effect I saw here. So this unit is gone. I don't get to attack that, but this unit does. It'll first fire. Does it want to? I mean, I don't have to. I'm charging. The big advantage was being able to hit the one unit. I think I want this under here to help defend. The big advantage was to be able to wipe out the one unit. Since I rolled an initiative or a route roll for these guys and they passed it, I'm going to leave them as is. I don't know what they're going to do though. It made a lot more sense to sling cav at them. The reason I thought it was cav was probably because this sector of the board, it was all cav, but these guys are creeping in from Oberglau. They're this. To say, because one needs to be able to visualize and understand the board quickly, my mind is relying more on other information than what appears on the counters, because what appears on the counters has that little fucking delay in it, right? You know, if I had to look up everything, I know I have to look things up here, I know I have to look things up around in here somewhere or another, but largely I'm memorizing where the cav actually are, rather than being able to discern them on the board. It's that hard for me to make the distinction that it's easier for me to memorize where the cav are likely to be. Now, I wanted to do a little bit of weird polish here, right? Do a bank shot. Initially Bibra, but for some reason he's flipped over. I don't know if I just passed with him saying, hey, he can't do anything anyway. But I got this Vigia unit here, which is plowing into my support units, right? The problem is, what I'd like to do is be able to hit, and I can use maybe Canal here. Is that his name? Oh wait, there's like Beirut back here. That's a line further back. What the hell are they doing there? I don't know what they're doing up there. They're fine where they are, but they're packed in a little closer than I like. Maybe Bibra turned around and moved back for some reason. Probably because Vigia came up too close. But what I was trying to think of was, well, can I do something to hit these? But I got a problem. There's a Fugger unit way back here. Now, if I took this just by line, it would obviously be, yeah, I can't do that. Worse than that is there's a Fugger up here too. They're like stretched all over. Fuggers. But it's okay if I drop into charge, though, is the whole thing. So can I? Well, let's take a look at the charge position table. For Cav, it has to be straight line, which means this guy is not in range. I can't turn and put him in straight line. It has to start out that way. I can turn and hit one of the side units. So I'm not going to be able to do anything to strike this and get rid of the problem that's like there. Get rid of a problem that might get rid of these guys as well. Wow, they're like behind my Fuggers. What the hell? Because this is support line stuff and this is reserve, was Beirut has to turn around and get the hell out of there. They just don't belong there. That's just, as soon as I activate them, something's going to have to happen, and in order to remember what has to happen, I'm just doing it now. Now I got a problem. I wanted to move these guys forward, but I really can't, because doing so would close off a path for some of these routers to slip through. I believe the French have run out of movement order units. Guys like Broglie, I can't figure out anything I can do with them. You know, I could tilt this guy. That might not be a bad idea. Of course, that opens a flank up, but I've got a double unit there, so that's okay. Got this flank open, too bad. There's nothing I can do about that. I don't know how many the Allies have. They have the rear line here, which I could just pass with. I've got that Natsen unit, which I can't fucking figure out what I want to do with. Like, the countercharge made so much sense. Right now, I don't know. I sure as hell don't want to hit... First of all, I can't hit anything, is sort of the problem. I could hit this unit in the town, because it has an open flank. And that leaves me really with, I think, like, Fink over here, a backup, this unit here, and this plank here, or plane, or palm, that could hit the town as well. It's Cav hitting the town. I don't like that idea. I'm pretty sure the Cav table doesn't work very well when you're going at bad odds. It looks horrible. That's Cav versus Cav, though. It's not so bad when you're attacking infantry. It's also not so good when you're attacking infantry. But the three remaining things: Palma, hit this, bounced off. Great. Fink pushed Cav over to no effect. They're going to just move back. they're in dress ranks. They have absolutely no problem with any of this. And finally, Natsa or whatever, I pulled him back a little bit. I can't figure out anything to do with him. I can't pull him back. Like I was thinking about moving into here, but that would have an overlap with Fugger, and that's no good. Because Fugger has like decided to take up all this space here in one big strung out column. That's going to put me on the dress ranks for the French. I do have a few for the Allies as well. Not many. You see a lot of counters, but most of them are units that are not actually dressing ranks right now. Their weird disadvantage to dressing ranks is that these French units that are dressing ranks don't count in my pass. So it means that the Allies have more flexibility as to which units to pick. It's a totally gamey result, but it is something that might dissuade you from throwing units that are just not going to be attacked in the near future into dress ranks. And I'm beginning to question having put these guys in. Everybody's done without anything happening. I'm wondering what's up with Schellendorf here. He's where? He's here. I probably should have activated him. He would have liked to have gotten into a dress ranks. He's infantry, right? I think so. But I feel like he did something. Like this was the turn that I engaged. So I don't know. Of course, that wouldn't be possible without there being a charge marker. Something may have gotten removed or something. I'm just going to leave it as is. Because I am running into those kind of anomalies regularly now. Where it's like, yeah, did I fuck something up? Something's wrong. Fugger is a clear example of that. Where he was in dress ranks and it looked like he had just charged, and I don't understand. I don't know if it's just like by not sort of stacking these on here, things are getting kind of shifted and being in the wrong place. I really don't know. But whatever, there's stuff happening that I don't really fully believe is representative of what's going on. Anyhow, we're going to see the routing and I guess the recovery, and that's it for the turn. And the net effect after the 320, well, starting with the 320 turn, 321, whatever. What do we got? The same basic stasis on the flanks that can't do anything. And of course, up here, nothing exciting happening. Over here, we had some major action happening, and things are clearing out a lot there. It still looks like the most likely place the battle is going to be won or lost. And then finally, over here in the, I don't know what this is called, the Hochstadt Plains, things are getting a little more interesting. Now, you saw what looked like a solid line and sort of coming together for the French here. What the fuck are these? Oh, these attacked him. That's what happened. Yeah, let me try, let me take a jump in. I know. See if he can get into, from March to dress ranks is 2. He would be 3-4 with Prince Eugen, right? No. Something like a 6. Yeah, he would have gone to dress ranks if he could have. So I'm going to put him like that, and I am going to back up out of there because why? I don't know. Because I want to launch another attack. That's why. I don't know how much value there is to that, but okay. Now this is, Bligny is part of what? Bligny is part of the Hochstadt Plains, so it's fine that he's here, except for the fact that he's the support line and not the front line. The fact that he's actually support line, well, that these guys withdrew means that I don't have to or something. It really doesn't make much difference. Had I been in contact, that would still require issues. Okay, so yeah, here something kind of interesting happened. First of all, both sides are forming sort of front lines in this big divot in the French line that's been created. But also the Hochstadt-Hesse units, sorry, Holstein-Bach, not Hochstadt-Hesse. Where's Hochstadt-Hesse? I don't know where he is. He existed, I swear. I don't know. Holstein-Bach. I've been calling him Hochstadt-Hesse. I swear there's a Hochstadt-Hesse. Have pushed their way straight down in, yeah, you can kind of say, oh, look, it's kind of linear, but it's not. Like, these guys are facing this way, this guy's facing forward, he's a little ahead, fine, whatever. These guys start facing this way, but then, wow, we just penetrated through going straight forward, and we don't have, you know, any kind of support. No matter what, we're going to be like exposing rears and whatnot if we're not careful. So this could end up a very volatile situation. I don't think it's going to go too badly for the French. I've got this reserve unit here that conceivably could do something. Now here's where the problem comes with my interpretation of how you fight, right? We sort of saw it in some places. There was a hint of it here. But since I'm not going with linear, since I'm going with distance, look, the front line is one away. If these guys are one away, it's a problem. But who is this, Montfort? See, they're all the way in the reserve line. We've got guys in the support line and the front line kind of all mixed up here together. Ainsley is front line. That's these two hexes. Broglie is front line. That's these two hexes. Massenbach is front line. That's this. And then these guys who've been pushed into the wrong sector. Everything else is support or worse. These guys are worse than support. Now, they can't match Broil either on, you know, they'd be closer to the enemy if they slide up there. So unless I get them, unless I get Montfort into the support line, I can't be up there as far as I'm concerned. Now, Belle-Île is just one away, yet it's in the support line. And this is the kind of thing that I'm talking about. But I'm fine with that because it also happens to be entirely behind the front line. So if I can get these guys into the support line, they can cover this without any special problems happening. If they cover it while there's, like if they attack, if they charge, that's fine. They can move into place there. Well, actually, they would have to reposition and then charge, right? Because, again, the charge, the infantry charge, you're not allowed to go charging off to the flank. So they would have to reposition first and then charge, and that would be allowable. But then if they're not stuck in combat, they're thrown into a kind of semi-movement and have to turn around and show their ass and all kind of horrible stuff. So it's really bad to do that. So I really do want to get these guys up into that support line. Of course, my chances of doing so are low. And if I don't do so, this is all frontline stuff here. Yeah, everything here, isn't it? Natsen even? Neulen is. Who's this? This is Neula. This is Scherenberg. That's this unit here. So, you know, this whole formation is all front line for the Allies, and I'm allowed to have 6 brigades up there. This is one of the things that the better commanders are able to do. They're able to shuffle more forces up to the front and whatnot. And this is going to be kind of problematic for him because all the French wing commanders are zeros. Now, I could get lucky and get a firefight and pin him in place so that like Belle-Île and stuff can beat their way forward and take their position along the stream that they want to have. I'm going to have to do something like that. To take advantage of the fact that these guys are so exposed. And that's going to be it for now. I don't know what's going on today. I really don't. Like, I'm fairly awake. I was this way yesterday. Ended up sleeping, but a little bit, not well. But I'd really like to get out. I need to get some more fucking keys cut because I lost my keys a couple weeks ago. Here it is, 2 in the morning. I didn't wake up until 8 p.m. today. That was enough to convince me. I contacted my buddy and let him know there's just no way I can get my life in order enough to have somebody here. It's a shame because it's the kind of thing that might have like shocked me out of this like really horrible twilight existence, but you know, I can't count on me. All right. So where the hell am I? It looks to me like I'm at the start of a completely new turn here at 320. I think I missed the allied routers. I had one here that was on level 2, but I think these guys were already here as well. So I'm going to pull them off. I might be mistaken there, but I seem to remember that had happened earlier. And I don't remember moving any of the allies. I do remember moving the French routers. Tried the first 2 shots here. I'm hunting down the rest, and that's when I noticed, whoa. Kind of struggling with these guns. This one, these guns. This one could unlimber. First of all, the fire of this one is my first issue. It's at a range where it would be okay later, but right now all it can really hit is some cavalry. Okay. Shooting cav doesn't do much. It really doesn't. Unless, if I get effective fire, I can prevent the cav from retreating. But he's got a protected flank because he's double set there. I don't know if that matters. It doesn't. Yeah, I don't know, you know, if I manage to get lucky and get that double hit on him, get the double hit artillery, but he'd be at range 3. And at range 3, that's a 20% chance. So I'm actually thinking about limbering this. Likewise, with this one, I'm thinking about not unlimbering, even though I'm within, you know, range of there's some infantry back here. I'm not really able to hit anything at all. And similarly, this guy, you know, could move up to here. Sure, that's fine. But I think I want everybody to be pushed more forward than they are currently. So I think I'm going to actually limber this one up and try to push forward. And obviously the others are going to keep moving. Shit ton of transfers and commitments happening here. Okay. Let's look at the French first. Cutting from this side. Montmorency, pushing forward successfully here to join Vigier as the actual front of this line. Of course, the support line is engaged already, so whatever. Coming over here, I'm sending an infantry brigade that's already charging over here and is already over the line into the support line over there. While it's charging, you know, it's going to be able to start doing nasty things to the cav, chasing it around and whatnot, which should be pretty helpful. That gets me over to the main line where we see that Montfort back here is now committed to the line, and that's going to allow me more freedom to hit here. I got a lot of lucky rolls, I guess. And finally, I'm sending Emonville across to join because this appears to be just static. There's not going to be a breakthrough there as far as I can tell, you know. But it looks kind of hopeless that there ever would be. Like, that front line looks like it's going to keep, and it's not like I have, you know, 3 lines sitting in the support line there. For the Allies, a little bit less going on. In fact, I only see two things, which is the commitment of this is still ongoing. And that's going to probably end up chasing Vigyr here and trying to position itself to attack at the flanks here. It's not going to be a major effect. More importantly, and the new thing is another Cav brigade being thrown into the front here to join Fugger in trying to deal with this. The Allied front line up here is looking very, very sparse indeed. So that's kind of necessary. So let's go to the charging units. And we have 2 French chargers. We certainly have more than that on the Allied side. But it does mean there's going to be some alternation in play. By the way, part of the reason I'm up here is for whatever reason, I really wanted coffee tonight. And I tried to go back to sleep. Listened to a video for about an hour. When it ended, I'm like, fine. You know, I kind of snooze during these, but I wake up when it comes close to the end or whatever, somewhere. I don't know. I was hoping to sleep through the night, thinking maybe, you know, just maybe I could get control over things. Having coffee might not have been the wisest thing, although it doesn't seem to have that much impact on me in terms of my sleep. Of course, I drink so much fucking tea that who knows. I think that if I didn't have tea constantly, and not because of the chemical properties or anything, I would just sleep constantly. It's like one of the, it's something that just keeps me, like, being able to imbibe the tea, being able to smoke and whatnot, makes it worth not, you know, minimally worth not being curled up in bed sleeping. But, you know, to some extent, my goal is to just move completely into the dream world and give this one up. Knew they existed. Here's Hesse Homburg, little Cav brigade. I'm moving the d'Amboville to try to solidify my attempts to cross here. We'll see what I get out of that. At the very least, I've got some nastiness to do to this Cav, don't I? I don't have to worry. I'm just trying to figure out what. Yeah, he can retreat, but he can't retreat due to stacking limitations because he's not the same brigade. So he's going to go. He's going to make a check on the cannot retreat table. But we actually have to attack this infantry as well. Vigyr unable to dress ranks, but also unable to actually conduct their charges, have regrouped. Regrouped better than they could if they had succeeded in the dress ranks. And however, they got in the way of Montmorency here. And Fink did their standard attacks. Here they did a first fire, though, mutual first fire, and drove Mercy back this way. I don't know. That sounds almost French when it's Bavarian, so and shoved the Cav back. Yeah. Which does absolutely nothing. Absolutely nothing. Until I can get that Cav in a position where it has to roll on the cannot retreat table, there's nothing good that's going to happen. And maybe I can get a jump, but I doubt it because it's always in dress rank. So this is a stasis that cannot be broken. And that's actually a problem with the system. You can set things up. The French are set up in a way with 2 Cav here, 1 Cav here, or dragoons as the case is, that there's absolutely no way to do anything else with this line. Now, if this guy hadn't advanced and I had advanced this infantry through the woods instead, maybe I could get some kind of advantage. However, I thought that it was important to get this here, and I'm not allowed to extend this wing to more than 3 brigades, even though there's a lot of space if you count the woods. But I am allowed to use the woods as long as there's only 3 brigades in the front. Which, again, there's just like, there's stuff that, you're standing there scratching your head saying, I don't know how much sense this all makes, really. You know, if I'm allowed to extend my line, I should be allowed to extend it into the woods another brigade, right? If there's that much space in the wing, I should be able to either use it all, or I should just not be allowed to deploy a full brigade deep into the woods, period, the end, which is actually probably the more reasonable thing. Fighting in the woods, while it could happen, I'm sure, is absolutely an incredibly rare occurrence. Trying to figure out, because this is really complicated, what happens if I continue the charge with Holstein back? Or do I try to roll for something? First of all, this unit would turn and fight this infantry, which I'd be at a disadvantage on, no question. Although I might have an advantage, I'd have an advantage based on, I'd be protected from here and from the unit underneath, by the unit underneath, unless this is a double depth. Oh no, it's an injured unit. Yeah, this thing would probably dissolve, which would cause all kind of problems. This guy would turn in the opposite direction. You'd have lines facing in opposite directions. This is a situation that, look, I just think the units wouldn't have pushed forward this far, but once they did, there's not much, you know, linear combat is going to break down, right? And it's going to start looking more like the messes that you might see in some other situations. So this is going to face this way and chase the cav away. This would be unable to cross the stream, but this could march forward and hit this unit. This would turn and hit this unit, and we'd see a couple of retreats from the cav there. Would those retreats cause any real problems? I don't think so. But they would disrupt the Allied line. I think I need to try to get out of charge for this. I'm not sure what I want to do about it. I think I'll still end up facing the wrong way. The easiest way out of charge is through dress ranks. So that's a 4, make it a 5, because I have a leader of some value. I really ought to get my leaders committed to the battles to give them the bonus, because I've got a big stack of leaders in that wing especially. And I do succeed in getting into address ranks. And then we're going to do those rotations that I was talking about, more or less. I might move something, though. I have a lot more flexibility here. Not a hell of a lot, not like I do in a movement command, but I couldn't afford the risk. Then for the final, I sent another wave of Palma's cav into this town. It didn't do anything. It got retreated. But I was at a net of +1, I believe. It was a full-fashioned one, so it was +2 due to the strength, -2 due to the village, but I had an extra wing covered in comparison to them, or an extra flank covered. Therefore, I was at +1. I feel like cav attacks at +1 are worth doing. I could have conceivably done some damage with that. That's going to put me to the movement orders on the French side. I got T going. Probably a good time to break. Okay, a little bit of movement into the front. The Maffei went into dress ranks. Kaunitz moved into position. Not necessarily a good position. You can see Montmorency moved up into position there. However, and then this Bilbra, I can't tell how many letters there are there until my newer glasses would work, but I don't wear them for whatever reasons. And they moved forward to take their position in the line. They were up in the front at that point, but then the French managed to get Baratin here into a charge. Now, officially, I'm out of compliance at this point, but I wasn't when I began the charge, and I broke Fugger, and you can see remains of Fugger units here with that charge. And again, that opens up another hole here. This is beginning to look really kind of shaky on both sides at this point. At first I thought the preponderance of Allied cav was going to be a major factor, but as I pump more and more brigades into there from the French side, I may need to start reinforcing this from the Allied side to break through. And we've got infantry, you know, at least a few infantry units here, so it's going to be hard for cav to break an infantry line there, which changes the nature of this as in terms of being able to be a victorious wing for the Alliance or for the Allied forces. So yeah. Now at this point, the Nagel unit that's here, I feel like it would be a disservice to allow it to advance as part of the Oberglau wing. It has now linked up with the Hochstadt plain, and which to me means that, yeah, if I want to use them in operations to push the Allies back or whatever, I'm going to have to transfer it over to Hochstadt plain and actually into the front. Now, the front is kind of problematic for this because it curves so widely. You know, there's just this wing has gotten bigger in some ways than it was before because of the curve. We had this issue in Neerwinden right from the very beginning, where the French leftmost wing was so curved that there was room for more brigades than could reasonably be there. I think 6 brigades isn't bad here. You can see I'm covering this with 3 in the front, and then I have Brühl and Bligny here and Nagel there. That could be 3 more, but the problem is I need to get this one in the front, this Montfort, and that's about it. Anyway, I just want to kind of show you, hey, you're not able to advance all along. And it kind of makes sense, because if I do push the Allies back, there's not going to be room for more than 6 brigades for the most part. There might be, but there probably isn't. So I'm going to leave things as they are here, and I'm going to say it would probably be a disservice to march forward with them under those circumstances. I don't know for sure, you know, but the thing is, yeah, I could probably go another hex further, but if I go much more than that, I'd be breaking this line. And that's really where the problem is with that, is that, first of all, I'm only allowed 2 in the front here. And so I couldn't even do it. Like, I don't feel like I'm allowed to do anything more than I'm doing here. Of course, that's just on the fly stuff. If I hadn't allowed for this extension into the plains, I wouldn't even be allowed to do what I'm doing. I would have to pull back and have to create a longer line and a greater drop off and all kind of weird shit just to comply with these imaginary lines on the map that don't really represent the kind of thinking that I think would apply. But I feel like winging up, that's too much frontage for that wing to be allowed to have. It's only allowed a 2-brigade frontage. So there you have it. Fortunately, I've lost track of who was going. I think the Allies just went, but I'm not absolutely certain. I think I shifted some stuff around with the Cav, but started looking at this situation for the French and couldn't figure out what to do. But I may have done a French unit just last. And you know, it's really hard when you're swapping back and forth, which is why I like to put the dice where they go. But I forgot to do that and then had some thoughts. And now Montfort swings around and hits Holstein-Beck, destroying a unit, and uh-oh, forgot to put my router in. I would have gone through here because there's a danger Holstein-Beck is going to fall apart anyway, although I succeeded in not routing. So that'll be like that, but it is beginning to disintegrate at this point. This is actually beginning to look pretty good for the French. They're in kind of an invulnerable position through here, largely. This was the one threat, and I feel like I'm undertaking to destroy that threat. Ainsley's Cav, I managed to get into charge, and they hit these two units. One got bounced off of, but the other one got to do some damage and push forward. It's really causing problems for the Allied side. And I don't really know if I have an answer to any of it yet. So, getting back to the counters, let's take a look at some disordered cav here. They look kind of like this, with these kind of curved things here. When you get to disordered infantry, it looks kind of like this, at least in some cases. In some cases, it looks like they're still... This isn't disordered infantry. This is damaged infantry here. Okay, where am I? This guy. But this one here, Brule, yeah, I'm too zoomed in, I'm not able to see, but then I'm not able to see the counter. It doesn't look as close to the disordered cav, but this kind of does. I'm just like, oh shit, man. It's even worse on the disordered side, or on the damaged side for the infantry. It looks kind of like the disordered cav, just in terms of like, there's obviously, you know, there's like guys being trailed behind or whatever. It's all trying to give that, you know, sort of thematic aspect to the game, but it's getting fucking in the way of any kind of real being able to see what the hell units actually are. So I was considering an attack by Broglie. Now, here I could attack. I'd be hitting a 4 versus a 3 for the river. His flank doesn't matter, so I'd be at like +1 if I charge here, but if I do that, I'd have to make a charge here as well. I'd be at an advantage there as well, and might be able to collapse this whole line. The problem, of course, though, is that, well, Emonville is coming in, but he'd have to place himself behind as a backup line. So I think it's worth taking a shot at trying to charge this and break through here as well, and just see if we can collapse that whole Allied line. If I was playing for sort of a safe victory, I wouldn't go for that. But the French don't know that they're supposed to lose this battle, you know, and therefore just surviving is good enough. They would like to win, and this seems like a move made towards that actual victory. I got bounced off a little worse than I wanted to, or hope. I was hoping to break through, and I got bad rolls in both cases. So that's an issue that I have, though, what I was talking about in terms of what the French are actually desiring to do with the battle. They want to win the battle. Sure. Being able to pull away safely and keep my army intact and whatnot, that's a decent result when you compare it to the historical. But again, that is not what the commander necessarily would see, right? The commander might see this as an opportunity to win a defensive battle and defeat the enemy. And that's what they should be desiring to do. And the victory conditions discourage that. That's something that's common across a lot of military games, where it's like, well, you can take a win and put it in your pocket. And I feel like it was pretty close to that. But now this creates some disruption where I might not be able to. In games where victory is more obfuscated, I'm thinking something I did several years back. When I first moved back to Eugene, but I was living in the apartment, which was the Battle of Monmouth, where there's a bunch of victory points that you calculate at the end of the game. So it's absolutely unclear, unless you're constantly scoring the game and trying to figure out, hey, where are we at? What are we at? Where you can say, I've got a victory in the bag if I just don't press on or whatever. To some extent, I feel like wargaming almost... So in order to be a reasonable simulation, wargaming has to include some level of sort of role play or whatever, where you take in mind what the different sides' goals really are, as opposed to just, rigorously sitting on the victory conditions and paying attention to them. Getting rid of the gaminess factor, right? And here I felt like this was the right move to trying to break the Allied army. Obviously, within the victory conditions as expressed in this game, if I break the Allied army, I do fine, I win, right? And you could say I win a better victory, more of one or whatever. But I'm not willing to say that it's, taking this chance, which really was a chance and may hurt my chances towards victory significantly. But I feel like it's what the commander would feel forced to do by the real historical situation. And it's where you come to the comparison between people who are playing a game as a competition versus people who are playing it not necessarily as competitively, but instead through a slightly different lens. They're still trying to win, but they're trying to win within the proper mindset. And where games try to align the competitive with the goals and whatnot, I'm thinking about things like Unconditional Surrender, the World War II strategic game, whatever, where it's like, hey, you want to reach a high watermark. They still end up being gamey, right? Like those mechanisms just end up being things that you can game for competitive play and do weird shit with. And they actually kind of don't represent like the attempt to try to capture something that will, basically they're a matter of scripting. They're trying to force you to do at least a minimal effort in a certain direction, as opposed to trying to, as opposed to succeeding in what I'm trying to reach for. And that's why I say, the on-the-fly changes that I make here to try to make things work realistically and whatnot, they're in the same spirit as the idea of trying to win the battle as opposed to win the game. It really is the same kind of thing. It's in that I want this story to develop as it should. And trying to capture that with specific rules, like some sort of scripting or something, never works properly. The only real way is what I would say is the Dean Essig way, rest in peace, which is very much a, look, just fight it the way you would fight it if you were that commander, Take the momentary, take the information of the moment and the desires, etc., that the commander would have and play that out. And, some people disparage that as more of a role play type of wargaming. I view it as trying to handle it as a real simulation and giving it the respect that it needs, as opposed to, that the victory conditions necessarily should drive your actions completely. Ideally, it would be great if they could, but I think in a lot of situations they fail. And the reason that I didn't want to be in the situation I was in with Broglie, who actually has ended up falling into a different sector of the front, much as Mossenbach has back here, problematic as this is that these guys are trying to make their way over. Now you can see, this just cuts away so sharply I'm just like, yeah, I'm going to start redefining this, I think, because this is just, this area from here over doesn't feel like it's part of this command anymore. And I'm diverting forces over. I've got units that are supposedly in the front and everything. I think it's time for me to redefine this wing to cut kind of this way. And I will find me another clip tie to put there. And we got it aligned in there. Now, it's not as obvious as this one just because of how the lighting and whatnot is set. I was worried everywhere. For example, here I'm over the line. I'm just like, whatever. You know, that's not a big deal. I'm just a little over. I don't really need to express that as much. And like this was initially, but now it's becoming sort of such a set situation that I feel like I do need to express it, that the wing has moved a little bit over. Just a hex. You know, I'm not going incredibly crazy. I'm not pushing the lines all over the place as expressed when I didn't want to do this too much further. I started to feel like that's going too far, right? Again, on the fly stuff though. You know, can you write rules to make it that way? Don't know if they would be restrictive enough. Like, if you could switch things around the way you can in the 1914 situation where you're just shifting the fronts. Should you be able to? Yeah, to some extent, but the battle would have to develop more. You know, to me, it's like this has to maintain kind of a contiguous line for that to be part of this wing. Okay, for me to say this. And similarly, this, is it contiguous? I got a hole, but it's a hole that's been created. You know, the other option is to just shift this over, or like to have the unit fall into a different command, which really wouldn't work. That would disturb my sensibilities a little bit more. Given the situation, I did try to charge with Nagel, and that would have required me to move into here and here. Violation of front of wings or not, by the rules the way I'm reading them, whether or not I redefine the wing or anything, that would have required that. And I think I wouldn't allow that to redefine the wing because that would start creating a separation of this line, which I just see as, again, like I said, it was going over the board, but I feel like I'm putting enough pressure on these allies who have pushed forward too far that it's valid for me to make that charge, just like some other cases where I've stumbled over the lines, but not necessarily valid for me to redefine the wing, and therefore requiring, if I get out of the charge, to fall back to my defensive position and give up whatever advances I make if I can't get into the other wing, which maybe I could next turn or whatever. I think all the French units under movement orders are done, which means the Allies have a few left. Here, a couple back here. But not all face-up units. It's kind of hard to tell. Again, if I have these in front, well, like here, I'm searching for the front side of the unit, and I see, hey, and then I have to perform an extra check, make sure there's not a command above it. Just because the automatic thing is, hey, which side am I on? And then on the other hand, if I've got them covered by the commands, I end up not being able to see what's front. And I'm not talking about fully covered. I'm talking about the partial coverage that I had. You know, something like this. Yeah, I have trouble because, again, the Fs are small and they don't do things. Now, maybe if I put it on the bottom or something, it would be easier, on the back or something like that, or covered the order with the unit or something. Who knows if there's some way that would work better, of course, with stacks, because I've got to keep the losses in the units. That might cause issues as well. And I just like, there's too much information with the counters being expressed. Now, there are other games that have this issue. There's no question about that. Where, you know, there's stacks of informational counters and whatnot. It just feels like there's not a lot here, but it is causing a lot of a cognitive delay in terms of determining what the hell is going on. So yeah, the rest will just be the remainder of the Allied units if I have any I want to move, and I probably do. That means out of the dress ranks, and the Allies have a couple, the French are going to have to go first, for whatever that matters. Again, I don't think it really does. Poe launched another round of attack, and you can see it did not go well. Bypass this, it doesn't cause any issues. But yeah, we got a router coming out. We bounced off for the most part. We were hoping to smack this thing in the flank. We actually had some benefits there. That turned out to be kind of a wash, but we ended up retreating. We do that again, we'd rout, because we'd take the hits first, because it was like a 1 AR result. And I think the last one left is Wilke, isn't it? These guys don't count. They're guys I didn't choose to activate for movement. Same with back here. So yeah, and I mean, I want to get into charge because I want to break the line somewhere. No such luck. And that's going to be the end of the line. Time for the routers to leave the board in most cases. But also for the ones that might be disruptive to actually move. And after the big unflip, we're here at the 340 turn. What do we got? Same as we're used to, right? Stasis, stasis, stasis. Nothing happening. Over here, well, both sides look a little weak now, which is kind of interesting. That heavy preponderance of Allied cavalry, it has dissipated, and reserves coming into line into this sector, making it look less likely for an Allied victory there. And over here, though, this is where things have really changed. This is where historically the French broke. But you can see they're making some good gains, pushing the Allies back, causing issues. This drive forward by Holstein-Beck, that could have just fallen apart completely. I'm kind of lucky it didn't, but I'm kind of feeling like the Allies are looking now more towards trying to pull back and draw this rather than lose. You know, that would be problematic, though, right? The French could afford to withdraw and do nothing in this battle, which is part of why it's a victory condition for them, but also part of why, you know, the whole thing is that Marlborough has force marched into this position. He's got his main striking force that would have been up in the Dutch Netherlands, in the Spanish Netherlands for that matter, fighting, now down on this front instead. And he kind of needs to be able to turn around and put that force back up in the north, where it can, you know, on the French border essentially, where it can have some effect. If it's tied down holding Tallard in place in Bavaria, there's a good likelihood that whoever's in charge, Villars or whatever, is going to make some gains. And there's also quite the possibility the Dutch, who are kind of hoodwinked into letting some of their forces go down here, are going to demand a recall or whatever, may even have problems with Marlborough. So, yeah, that's not a good situation. He really needs a victory, right? But on the other hand, he can't afford to lose his army. He can't afford to be badly defeated here, which that would be a much, much worse result. So I almost feel like I have to pull back and regroup. At least, if I don't win this battle and have a functioning army, I might win the next battle, right? Wednesday morning, still no sleep. It's going to be a pretty day. Maybe I can force myself, you know, when I would normally go fall asleep, to make it outside or something and just like go for a walk and keep walking. But as it stands, I mean, I tried again, you know. I tried again. It's like 7 in the morning now. As it stands, it's time to fire some artillery and see what we can get going here. And the light's going to get really bad in a little bit as the sun rises a little bit. There's like a 15-20 minute window that's horrible. We're starting to see some of the light showing up on here, but it gets much, much worse. The big guns, we get an effective fire here. Only one of them actually hit, but it hit big, so I concentrated fire last time to try to do that. Here, these guys on limber. This one, he was right here, so I turned and ran away a little bit, get him a little out of range of being attacked. Not quite sure how attacking artillery alone works, right? There's no rules for what you're able to attack. At what points you're allowed to attack artillery, but there are rules for if you happen to do it. I assume you can just attack anytime you'd be able to attack infantry or cav, but that means like this disordered guy wouldn't be able to attack. So I was actually safe where I was, but I'd rather turn in this direction and just make it a little safer or a little more certain to be safe. And to the big command wing table, which this is where the game change is different from most other things, is this representation here. Okay, for the new positionings, Emonville got committed to the support line over here. That's going to make things easier. I can cut up in here and join Montfort. Things are kind of confused because there's stuff in the support line that's in the front of the fighting, but that's because I've been pushed too far apart. Other attempts were not successful to move things around on the French side, but here on the Allied side, I'm moving this infantry, I'm ordering it to move over here into the support line of this wing, and this cav, Kusani, is successfully moving to the front. Nothing else succeeded. I tried to bring this cav over. I just feel like I need more force over here. There's enough reserves over here to hold things together. I feel like I got my best chance of winning here now that I'm getting repulsed over here after having made that probably misguided attack here with the Holstein back units. And that's going to get me to brigades. What's our first charger? This is getting complicated because there's actually a fair number of French units under charge. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 French under charge. 1, 2, 3, 4 Allied units. So the initiative's actually swung over to the French. Now that's not necessarily a good thing, but it might mean that they get what amounts to a double turn in one or more places in the battlefield. If they can pick a place where they made some advances, they might be able to make additional advances off of that. I'm thinking something like Montfort here could smack into the Holstein Beck and really cause a lot of problems. So I'm going to look to see if there's anything better than that, but that one really comes to mind. It's not really going to be a double turn. I don't know. I don't remember when. See, I think Holstein Beck was in attack and they went to dress ranks. So they went first, then Montfort went, and now Montfort's going to go again. So yeah, so I think it is actually going to be a double turn if I do that. In terms of timing, there's absolutely no reason then for me to move Montfort at this point or to trigger them. They will go before Holstein Beck no matter what. Now, I might want them to go before Erleville here, and that's a possibility, but I found something even more exciting in terms of that, which is the Annesley Cavalry, which aligns up with the Erleville. I want to go first with them. Now the question is, do I want to attack this and bust this up and, you know, further push against the Allied line, or don't recover this this one cab here? I can't do both. I think given the circumstances, I'm better off trying to get into address ranks there. It's not necessarily particularly easy. It's a 3, but I do get it, and that's going to give me an opportunity to recover that. I don't know. Oh, and this. I don't know that there's anything else I want to do with this unit. So for example, could I move this here? Yeah, you know, I mean, brigade integrity is actually maintained as far as I can tell, as long as I have 2 of each. But I'm going to leave it with a unit in each hex that way. Okay, and then de Earleville did address ranks, pulling back across the stream, doing what recovery they can. But then Montfort hit the Holstein back and dissolved that brigade. And you can see we're up at the front here, we're separated, but one of our units bounced off, the other one did a first fire, wrecked the unit, sent it routing, and that's what this is. So now there's a big gaping hole in the Allied line, and it is really looking bad over there, and it's not looking good enough over on this flank, on this wing. Everywhere else is kind of in this static kind of situation, but this center wing, it looks like the Allies are in a lot of trouble right now. Fucked something up last turn and did not move these forward where they should be, because, like I said, you're in dress ranks, you're invulnerable, right? Because you go after. So the Fink charge would have pushed them further another hex. I could have done what I did. I'm not leaving it at that. I'm fixing this because I feel like it has too much impact. But I'm going to trigger Fink and see what happens there. The Bogley Cav was unable to get out of a charge order. And the only target for charge that it had that was eligible was some routed units, so they hit those. That drives them further on. And we're out here. The rest of it's up here. But you can see, this is like the kind of pursuit rules that get you in trouble in other systems as well. Things like GBOH and musket and pike as well. I think I got one more charge left. I don't know. I got this guy, and I got one more French one back here, Barrington, who's going to, of course, try to reorder. He's not going to be able to charge, which means he'll be limited to, like, moving up to there or something anyway. It's just a question of whether or not I can reorganize and get into shape for a charge at some point. Something that does work well, I know I complain about a lot of things that don't work well because those are the things that really catch the mind, right? Like, they're kind of the assumption is everything works fine, right, for a game, or at least within the parameters that you expect for games. But here, the Palma unit was still in charge, and they were positioned like this. Well, they're not able to charge, therefore they drop into move because they're disordered. But I can turn them around, move them back here, get them together, and they're kind of in the process of reforming. Until they get address ranks, they will not be able to charge. But they're like milling around in a sort of a confusion and whatever that all seems very natural and realistic. One thing on the player aid as I finish up the Barrington, which is the last of the charging units. You got this brigade activation 3.3. Honestly, I think this would work well if it was divided. Like, it would be a helpful indication. I have no problem with it as is, but 3.3A, charge activations, 3.3B, movement activations, 3.3C. And there's definitely room that you could extend that out. You know, it doesn't make much difference, but it is kind of helpful the way I walk away in the midst of a given turn to be able to see that distinction. I'm going to shift things over there. It's cold. I need to bop pipes, and I don't know if I'm coming back right away. I don't know what the hell is going on in my life. I'm so fucking tired. Like, not really. I'm so awake and know that I need to sleep, right? In order to be awake during the time I want to be awake, because it's fucking cold out there. It really is. It's like, it's going to change. Today it's going to hit at 65. Yesterday, the last couple of days, it's been closing in on 60 as the high for the day. Today it's supposed to hit 65. But tomorrow it's going to hit 80. It's just like, and then for several days it's going to be like summertime, which, I don't know. The weather here is so weird to me. I managed to get like 3 hours of sleep or so, which is about what I hoped for. I'd hoped for more like 5, but enough that I'm hoping I can convince myself to go out and do a couple of things. So back to the game. We are at, what? I believe the move phase, starting on the Allied side. Don't know what I'm doing. I'm kind of wondering if maybe the fact that it's been about a week since I've left the house, the fact that I got hurt, was enough to somehow help dampen my ability to go out. I mean, for example, I didn't go out on Friday night when I usually go out. It's almost like, I don't know, like I'm just sort of trying to realize, whoa, could something like that have factored into my sleep schedule and everything in a way to try to dissuade me from going out where I got hurt, back through my backyard and whatnot again? I don't know. Eyes open up with an opportunity, giving them the momentum hit against the Vigier unit, and you can see they broke the entire unit. They actually only got 1 successful hit, but the effects of route throughs and whatnot made it 2, and that drove it up to, a small unit just dissolving and falling back. We can see they did it with this Bibka unit. A couple of them fell back from their attacks, but actually I think this one just stalled. But one of them got a big breakthrough, didn't get a corresponding attack, could have stopped here and kept hitting this. Instead, they just have to continue moving with their momentum. You're forced to move your full advance when you hit, which is kind of weird. Like, I'm playing it that if I had gotten an advance and allowed an attack, I could have stopped here and hit this, because then I'm trying to get in there as opposed to just, skimming through. I'm not sure the rules support that, but my common sense says that would make sense. Another big hit, though, after some shifting, Eminville moving over here, Allies moving the Casal, Curacao, something like that, I don't know, Cav into place. Nagel, Nangi, it's Nangi on this side. What the hell? I guess it's Nangi on both sides. I've been calling it Nagel. Moved forward, first fire on the cavalry, which was not in the best position to receive it, and ended up pushing this back with a casualty and destroying, I don't remember what he is, Schulenberg or something like that, destroying his command. And what the hell is this? There's a depth marker that got left behind for some reason. Oh, I hope I didn't just destroy an infantry brigade. I think I did. I fucking did. That's what happened. Son of a bitch. Okay, we gotta redo some of that. This is, I think, how it was set up after first fire. Let's get this guy out of here. He wouldn't be there. God. And I think I'd be allowed to run directly back, although no, I gotta try to make it there as quickly as possible. So I'm gonna have to do something to get these guys out of the way, which is a headache I didn't want to deal with. I think this is what I had set up. First fires happened. Now we're at a 2 versus 2. Everything's linked up, so we're just at a 0 there. I thought I was hitting cav all down the line, which is part of why I did it. The men in the field can't tell what they're facing either. The visual is just It's a real issue for me. 5, so instead I got a firefight, and no, I did not break this unit. And yeah, this is a much, much less appealing attack. I was looking at an attack where I had 2 units that I was able to wreck. Now, let's see. This must have gone through here. That would do that. Okay. So that's what I'm facing. Great, but the imagery on the counters, as you can see, it is causing the game to not really be anywhere near as playable or fun as I would like it to be. Along with the imagery on these, along with some other little mechanical and design factors. I've heard, maybe I'm wrong about this, that there's like a dual pack musket and pike game that was released recently. You know, older games that I have, so I didn't reorder, get a new version of them, because I went out and captured, all the originals. Glad I did, because what I heard was that they started using this kind of graphics on the counters for those two. And yeah, that would probably cause me just as much problems as I'm getting playing this out. It is a bad choice. This is the kind of thing where I imagine that the designer says, no, I want it to look that way. And in the original production, they said, nah, that's not really helpful. That's bad for play or whatever. Maybe a McGowan or somebody like that. I don't know who did the counters. I know McGowan did a lot of the artwork. But I know McGowan has, let's see, counters. Okay, we've got somebody different that I've never heard. Wachowski. I've never seen that before. The images, actually this is a Simonich for the overall art direction. I think the kind of counter images that were used is sort of a cartoony look, right? And I've never really liked that look appearance-wise. By all means, I think these look better, right? I just can't discern them. They're not as playable. I think Roger McGowan was the guy who did the counters back in the day. I may look that up. I peeked at Under the Lily banners, and that's Simonich and McGowan are in charge of the counter art. So I'm at least half right there. I always associate it because in the C3I, is it C3I? Yeah, C3I is GMT's thing. In the C3Is, which I think is Roger McGowan's sort of baby, in terms of getting the magazine out and whatnot. He always made a big deal about the counter art. And in the box designs and everything, the counter art was always a big deal. It's kind of funny. That has gone away. There used to be, GMT games used to have printing for whatever reason on the sides here. I kind of liked that. They'd have extra text and extra images and everything. It's not something you saw when you were buying the game, so it's just like, extra design work went in for something that like isn't going to sell you the game on the box. But it was always one of the things that like, oh, that's a GMT game when I look over and see what's open or whatever. And that seems to have gone away. Now I'm wondering, has that gone away with everything? Have some of the base concepts that were from the good old days of GMT just gone? See here, but this is a little older, and it's got McGowan on it. I'm going to look at let's look at one of the other new ones. Clash of Sovereigns. Have they gotten rid of it? Like, I didn't think about that before. Yeah. They got rid of that whole concept. I'm assuming like throughout the board, throughout the, throughout all the company's proceedings, they've decided to stop, engaging in that extra bit of work. But it was an extra bit of work that, it was part of what appealed to me. Like, it was never a big deal. It's not going to cause me to buy the games or not. But it raised a little bit of plus to me to have that extra text, extra images there. Sometimes some historical notes and whatnot were on there. Just, stuff that you kind of wanted to cram on the back of the box, but there wasn't room for, was kind of the feeling that it had. It was like, if we had this extra space, we would give you ads over here, about the game. And it's really stuff that's designed to pull you into the game more quickly. And I kind of like it, man. It's a shame that went away. All right, where the hell am I? So that was a French attack. See why these videos are so long. It's worse than I thought. I've got a dress ranks here. That can't be. I must have just put it in the wrong place. Or flipped it somehow. I don't know what the hell happened. That certainly couldn't have been dress ranks. Like, my die roll was from nothing to charge. But I'm pretty sure I grabbed a counter and put it there when I went into charge. And apparently just put it the wrong way or something. Wow. I started moving these guys. I'm finding these things and I'm like, oh, what did I fucking do? I managed to get Montmorency into a charge going against the flank and whatnot here, but there's a unit underneath. Now, here's the problem, and I've brought this up before. This has to do with not doing individual facing for each unit in a hex. I said I'm okay with it, and I live with it because I want to make things easier. But the attacks on this both hit the top unit. And I think an attack on the back of a unit would hit the top unit as well. This is wrong, right? Very clearly, if I'm getting a bonus for refusing this flank, this unit should be hitting the flank unit, the unit refusing. This unit should hit the unit in the front. It's not what happened. The modifiers would be the same. Again, I think it's a small enough thing to get rid of what would be a really cumbersome mechanism. But if you're a real purist, you would not like, you might be willing to make that modification, to have each unit in the hex have its own facing. The danger with that, though, is the idea of facing front to back to each other. But we had that over here with the Holstein Beck in separate hexes. So honestly, if you could do it in separate hexes, I think it would end up possibly happening within a hex, to tell you the truth. And consider there's a lot of space in these hexes, which is to say that there's room, like, to be able to talk about that idea of, like, a very pointed little position or something like that, which is almost front to back. There would be some curve to it and everything, but whatever. So it's not just, trying to form a square or something with a brigade. I'm not sure that would be impossible either. Wednesday, I don't know. Probably getting close to 3 p.m. My garbage is not being picked up properly. I don't know what the hell is going on. Like, I think they fail. I don't know about my main garbage can, but there's not much in it. But there's something still in it, like a bag. And that may have been all that was there. Or, like, there's one small bag, like a bread bag, full of the trash that I collect over, a couple days or whatever, a week. But they didn't collect my recycling glass, which usually is first thing in the morning they come by and get that. And I think it's because it was behind the trash can. I don't know. Anyway, I managed to make it out today. Woohoo! A fair-sized walk. I had a check to deposit that I usually would do on a Friday on my way to the bar, but I'm like, screw it. I could face that easier than getting the key made, but I also brought the key with me and got that made as well. It was sort of like, do the one first. So there's that, but I'm exhausted from having been outside, I guess. I don't know, during daytime. I really don't understand. It's like I don't feel this exhausted when I get to the bar, right? But whatever. But when, now I'm tired. But on the other hand, I didn't get enough sleep either, so I'll probably take a nap. But I want to get a little bit done here. And I mean, the funny thing is, I have this feeling that, like, I should feel energized and think that, I can go out other days. I kind of feel that way when I'm partway on the way to shopping. I kind of didn't feel that way at all today. Now, when I get home from shopping, I'm exhausted, which, that's fine. I should be dragging the cart up the hill. But now I feel almost as exhausted as shopping. Of course, my back isn't injured, which at least there's that. All right. So I think we're on movement actions, starting with the Allies. And given that I already moved this, I think I'm in the midst of doing those. That's okay. I'm just looking, yeah, people like this also. Okay. And just trying to get my bearings here. One of the units I might have wanted to do, this Konitz here, he's down here. He got pinned in a couple of firefights. I don't really have an easy withdrawal. I guess I could pull back to here and get out of those firefights if I do address ranks. But this Bilba unit, the charge that came through here is kind of interfering. And this is what happens when you stumble, into other wings and whatnot. This was one that I probably cheated. Like, if I was playing by the rules as written, moving into here would have been illegal because I wasn't in a charge aspect. Of course, I could end up in that position and be in just as problematic a situation. I don't know if I want to launch attacks or not. Just really don't know with what I'm facing. After some kind of inconsequential attacks, like here, I pushed a Nagel back with this cav. I managed to get an attack here with Hesse Homburg, which hit and destroyed one of the Broglie cav, routed the rest of the unit. So we've got stuff here, has to go path of least resistance, so I couldn't enter the unit that was here that caused this. I probably wouldn't want to anyway, but now I've got something in the way coming this way, and it's going to route through and cause problems to the units. It might end up breaking Montfort if I go through here and destroy this unit. That might be wiser than going through this and hurting a couple of units and actually what's behind and everything. So, but here we're seeing the routers beginning to cause issues to the French. This is really turning into a messy, messy battle. It could go either way. Like, I saw advantages to the French, but now the Allies are sweeping back into place. And this also feels like it could go either way, even though they're just kind of lined up and everything. You can see the Allies are probably in better position. The problem is the French have some infantry now over there. And infantry's got a lot more staying power than the Cav does. Cav hits Cav. And, it's almost a crapshoot, right? I was over here on the +1 table and I get an A2E. A fairly good chance of eliminating the enemy that way. At the end of significant movement commands, I've done all the French. I was doing pass back and forth, basically, type situation. I've done all the French, and I'm looking at the Allies, and they don't want to really move anything. I don't know. Efren could move forward, I guess. Move him forward, what the hell. But other than that, I'm just kind of looking and I'm saying, yeah, I don't know. I don't know if there's anything that really wants to make a move right now. So that'll send me to dress ranks on the French side. Managed to get into a charge with Palanque here. And now he's crossing the boundary, pushing into the village here. That feels like that may be a step too far. Like, I kind of want to keep the wing from extending into the strong points, etc. But I had, the charge was allowable, and I managed to get a hit there. Elsewhere, nothing of any value, really. We scared some cav back. Did we? Yeah, this unit did. So yeah, I really don't know if I'm allowed to hold this, but we'll see. We'll see what I decide there, because I kind of don't like the idea of having to give ground, right? Like, just because I've crossed what was the boundary. I feel like I should be able to continue the assault on the village, but that's also like, that feels like that's this wing's job, especially since this line was here. Then I've overstepped the line. Like, it was okay for me to be, it was certainly allowable even with the base rules to be here. But moving into here, moving into the village feels like I have crossed a boundary that, like, probably should be more rigid. But again, I don't know how I feel about it yet. I'll keep brewing on that and see what happens. That puts me on the French. Problem sort of solved by Ballancourt, but he's now way out of where he belongs. Ballancourt's back here in the support line, and he's moved up into the, you know, he did a charge. This was, again, allowable by the way I read the rules, but I'm now disassociated with this unit, but also I'm up here with Maulevrier, who is the frontline unit, and I shouldn't be. I'm actually beyond some of them, and you know, just he can't stay there. But I have cleared the village with that attack. It's actually the Allies are out of dress ranks. I still have quite a few on the French side because they've been relying on that to make their defensive stand. Quite out. I got one here. You know, I didn't do anything with that. That's okay. I couldn't really figure out what I wanted to do with him, so it's all right that he passed. It's not all right if he passes, though. So let's see if he can get into a charge. Does he want to? Does he have damage? See, I might want to get into a march, get that first fire going, and hit this infantry here. Because I actually can't hit this cav. Let's try to get to march instead. So that'll be dress ranks to march is 4. Nope. Here's the problem with what Ballancourt did. I have to do something with Maulevrier. And I have to get out of this. I have to fix this situation that Ballancourt caused for me by attacking into that village. And, well, I'm going to try to, shit. I don't know if I want to charge, you know. That doesn't necessarily seem like a great idea, but I could cause some disruption if I get into a charge. Let's go for it. No such luck. We stay in dress ranks, and we're going to have to move like this, I think, to try to fix this. And these guys are going to have to shift and start to fix it. And that's, you know, not at all where I want to be. We had to come out of there because the support line unit is up there. And why you may not want to delay with your frontline units all the time. Because this is absolutely not what I want to be doing right now. I wanted to stay in my defensive position in the village. Now, I might be able to return to it by being fired on or whatever. Raider, on the other hand, first of all, couldn't fix it if he wanted to. There's units in his way. And I don't see anything that's going to force me to do anything. Also, I'm adjacent to the enemy here. He's only adjacent to somebody who's in a different wing, for what that's worth. But yeah, definitely some chaotic situations that are going to be, like, I think under any way you're trying to play it, if you're trying to play strictly by the rules, whatever, I don't think that you get any fix as to how to resolve this issue, unless the missing rule, the magical missing rule that covers everything that I don't understand in this game somehow. Yeah, I mean, there's just no way that it covers, like I say, there's at least a half dozen different situations, probably closer to 10, that I'm saying, well, maybe that rule covers. Oh, there was something I wanted to do. This should have happened during the movement, but I see these guys are heading. Now, I don't actually have to do it right now, but I'm going to pull these back. That should have happened earlier, but I knew that there was a router who was causing a problem, and I couldn't find it on the map. I kept looking over here and everything. I didn't notice this guy. This guy was the problem. He's not going to cause a problem right now because he'll move to here and then he can't cross the river. So I would have had a chance to pull back on the next turn, but I want to do it now because. So that'll get me to the routers and then the big unflip and whatnot. There's another one that was going to cause problems. This guy perhaps could run this way because he's running away from the enemy. But just to make life easier, I'm going to pull that back as well. The routers took out the Montfort infantry, and that entire brigade died or ran away. The units from that brigade that ran away, I'm leaving on level 2. Actually, no, they would flip over to level 1 because they flip over. They flip over during the reset phase, so they would actually be another. Did I do this guy? No, I didn't move him. I do that move and flip thing, and that caused me confusion, but that's actually not the way the rules should apply. All right, time to fix everything, and then soon it'll be time to load this up. It's turning out to be a closer battle than I expected. I expected, like the Nearwinden, that it would follow largely, the historical pattern. Right now, it feels like it's still up in the air, honestly. Stasis over here for the most part. A little bit locked in here where something might happen coming across the line, across the flank there. And likewise, mostly stasis here, but now the French are advancing out of the village, forced there by Balincourt, who charged into the village to save a hex that was defeated. And this unit couldn't recover its damage because it has to try to get back together with those guys, and it has to get beyond Balincourt, and all kind of messy stuff like that. So there's actually something breaking over here in a way that, like, wow, what's that going to do? I don't know. Obviously, still here, nothing going on there. The Oberglau frontal assault is just not going to happen. Cav are not going to take that town from the infantry, period, the end. Over here, things look like they've stabilized a little bit more, although we've got a breakthrough, whatever. This could still go either way. There's more weight on the Allied side, more infantry on the French side. I don't know which one's going to be of more importance when it comes down to it. But over here, it's fucking chaos. And that's all I have to say. I mean, look, Ansley is cutting through and and still holding their position there, but making some pushes forward. We got guys over here pushing forward. But Hesse Homburg came back, smacked up I think they took out a couple of brigades basically by hitting that. One directly and the other through routers that are cutting through. So this is just like, I'm expecting I'm expecting the French line to dissolve there, but I don't know for sure. Like, the movements that they made, the first thing was the attack across here opened up some opportunities for the French to like take the offensive, and it looked good for them for a moment as they kind of forced the Allies back into a tighter circle and whatnot. But now it's beginning to look like, yeah, that may have been a big mistake. I probably should have stayed behind the lines with my dress ranks orders with the infantry. Hope the cav doesn't cause me too much damage by being in front. I was beginning to think, wow, that cav in the front is actually doing some cool shit. And it kind of was, but it tempted me into moving infantry forward. Luckily for me, I have another brigade coming up here, which can help fill in the gap. I've got things like Belle Ile that can come in and help fill the gap. But then I'm like relying on Cav to defend me, and Cav is not going to be able to do that. It'll get pushed behind the river or the stream, but no more than that. So that's the end of the 3 p.m. video, and we'll go to the 4. I'm probably done for quite some time because raid is coming up, but more importantly, I want to take a nap. All right.